everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and today I'm coming to you with a very unique range report for the Texas Gun Vault YouTube channel. And that is, I'm doing a chapter 2 on a gun that I've already reviewed. I don't think I've ever actually done this before. Normally, it's a one and done deal. Well, today I am taking another look at the NS-15 rifle from a company called North Star Arms. When I first reviewed this rifle, it was on loan from one of my local friends who's an FFL and received it from one of his distributors. He says, "Hey, it's a new gun on the market. Do you want to try it out?" And I said, "Absolutely. I'm willing to try out any gun." Got it to the range. I said, "Okay, it's a pretty good AR. There's a few things about it I don't like. I don't like some of the choices that they've made. There's a couple blemishes on the receiver. Might be a little bit too much for what you get." And I posted the video. But I didn't say the gun was junk. I said it was actually pretty darn nice. In fact, if you're curious about that first review, I'll put a link to it in the description below. And to my surprise, one of the managers of marketing contacted me about a week later. And they said, "Hey, we saw your review and we'd like to talk to you about it. There's some things that we disagree with because I don't think you understand what went into the rifle, but also a few of your concerns were definitely concerns of ours too." So I got the chance to talk to them about everything about this rifle. Now, when it came to the blemishes and the imperfections, where I said, "I don't know, you're paying a lot of money for a gun that has a couple of blemishes, not a big fan of that," they said that they actually had a run of these guns and they wanted them to be returned because they shouldn't have gotten past quality control. It was a very low serial number, and that they have since fixed it and redesigned a couple of things. I said, "Okay, I completely understand that you wouldn't want that type of product going out, especially if you're a new company." But then when it came to a few of the other things, they said, "Hey, we understand why you said what you did. We understand it wasn't a criticism saying, oh, it was a bad choice, but why you don't like it." But then they explained to me some of these choices that they made, and I have to say it made the gun way cooler. So before I go on with this review, I want to talk about this particular example I have, and I am always upfront and honest with every one of you when it comes to my range reports. I tell you, is the gun on loan? Is it my personal gun? How did I acquire it? Well, North Star Arms sent me this rifle for free. So you guys know and you can decide, does this affect my review of this rifle in this chapter 2? They were also really cool and marked the lower receiver with the Texas Gun Vault logo. That is really, really cool. So I already know some of you guys are going to say, well, this is going to be a hand-picked rifle out of their batch, going to a YouTuber that has reviewed the NS-15 before. You guys can decide if that's the case. But when it comes to a couple of things I didn't like, and I'll go over this as the range report progresses, the first thing I complained about was the choice of Hogue furniture on this rifle. Now, my complaint with the Hogue was the fact that I think they should have gone maybe more with a Magpul stock, something that's a little bit more industry standard, and a Magpul grip. However, they told me the reason that they chose Hogue was for a very specific reason. North Star Arms is a sister company to a company called ProFence. You may never have heard of them before, but they produce a very well-known firearm called the minigun for the US military. That in and of itself is really cool. It's like a modern Gatling gun. And they said that the reason that they chose the Hogue furniture for the NS-15 was because, as its sister company, every time anybody interfaces with a minigun, they are doing it through a spade grip, which is created and built by Hogue. I was like, actually, that is pretty darn cool that Hogue makes the grip for the minigun. And so the company that makes the minigun, when they produce their own line of civilian AR-15s, decided that they would go with Hogue furniture, so that the same company that makes the interface for the minigun is also going to be the same company that you are going to use for the furniture of the NS-15. I thought that was really cool. And I told them, listen, you need to put that in the box. You need to put that in your marketing, because when I found that out, I was like, that actually is a pretty darn awesome choice. Now I like the idea of what they did here, but I had no idea going into the review. There was nothing on their website. There was nothing in the box that told you that. So as soon as they told me, the cool factor went up by about 100 points. Now there's a lot of other things on this rifle that is really well thought out, and they told me why they selected everything. Now before I show you my first shots with this rifle, I want to show you a couple of things that I did upgrade. So while they sent me the rifle for free, the things that I have purchased for this rifle, I do have a loopholed scope on it with a burst scope mount. I have a Magpul vertical foregrip. This handguard does utilize M-LOK, and I have an M-LOK compatible Magpul bipod and some Ultradyne C2 backup iron sights. That's all that I've added to this rifle. So any of those accessories or any issues with those is not North Star Arms issue. That is just how I decided to deck this gun out, which by the way, one of the things that they wanted to do was produce a high quality, what they refer to as a patrol rifle, that you as an end user can put on the accessories that you want. They said they wanted to keep the price point low and not give you something that you didn't want. So if they put on Magpul backup sights on this, you may just throw those away because you want something else or not run them at all because you're going to run some type of electronic optic. They wanted to give you the maximum choice as the end user to equip your rifle as you want it, but to give you the most solid platform that it can be. Now, I have to say, I like that. I still think though, to throw in a couple of backup iron sights is not bad for those people that might be a new gun owner and not know better. So you get everything in the box that you can go right from the gun show or the gun shop and go to the range, put those irons on and shoot. But as I said, I understand their decision. But let's first go to my first shots on this rifle, the first magazine, which also, by the way, they do provide one magazine, and it is by D&H, which is a government contract magazine. So a government contractor making government contract guns is going to provide you a government contract magazine. So everything right now is all in that philosophy of the company North Star Arms, which I said is a sister company or a subsidiary of ProFence. But anyway, let's get to my first shots with this new rifle. Bolt did not hold open. Uh-oh. Well, maybe that's just going to be a break-in thing with the gun, but we'll find out as the range report goes on. But I have to say, from those initial shots, everything else ran fine. The gun ejected like it was supposed to. I was really impressed with how light the recoil was in this gun. Now, AR-15s in general, recoil pretty darn light. However, there's a couple things about this gun that make it even nicer. One of those things is this is a mid-length gas system. All of my other rifles that I personally own are carbine or rifle length gas systems. This is a mid-length gas system. Now, the only issue that I've had with this, and it has nothing to do with the performance of this gun, is because we have this free float handguard. When I wanted to mount this bipod, I really wanted to mount it a little bit further back. But unfortunately, because we have the low profile gas block right here, it makes the M-LOK slots right back here unusable. So I have to mount the bipod a little bit further forward than I normally would want to, which means that the legs of the bipod are going to stick out a little bit too far. But that is a small complaint, and I know that I could probably mount the bipod a different way or get a different bipod. But having that mid-length gas system really did affect the recoil of the gun. I was quite impressed with that. Now, a lot of people also say that the mid-length gas system is going to give you a more reliable rifle. Now, I've never had a problem with carbine length gas systems, but I know the rifle length gas systems are the best. So this is kind of a happy medium between those two. Now, let's also talk about the trigger. It is made by ALG Defense, which is a subsidiary of Geissele, and you know they make some of the best triggers out there. This is supposed to be a mil-spec trigger that is polished, and all of the components of this trigger are forged metal and not MIM, which is really, really cool. Now, I do like ALG triggers, and I like Geissele triggers a lot. In fact, I have a number of them in many different rifle builds that I own. The reason that they decided to go with this particular trigger is, as I mentioned mentioned before, they were trying to go for a patrol rifle. So a rifle that can be marketed to law enforcement, but also to civilians. And as a patrol rifle, you can't put in some type of trigger that you're going to have a 3.5 pound or lighter target trigger in. You're going to have something that's a little bit more mil-spec, something around the 5, maybe to about 7 pounds. And that's what you have here. But because it is a polished ALG trigger, it has a very clean take-up, break, and wall. And I gotta say, it's actually pretty darn good. So for just kind of a mil-spec parts trigger, it's nice. And I definitely think worth the money. Now, you can also change this out to something else you want. If you wanted to drop a Timony or a Geisley super semi-automatic in there, this thing is ready to go. This lower receiver is a stock mil-spec lower receiver. I'm going to talk about a couple things about the lower receiver that they changed since the first example that I had in here. But I know what some of you guys are already wondering. Is this going to be an issue with the bolt catch? Well, I'm going to load the magazine with 5 more rounds and see if it happens again. All right, so it ran fine that time. I thought maybe it has to do something with the break-in period of the rifle. Now, when I talked to the guys at North Star Arms, they assured me that all of these rifles have 3 full magazines shot through them before they leave the factory to test for function. So you would hope that any of those minor issues or break-in issues would come to light. But as I said, maybe that first magazine was just an anomaly. The second magazine, it ran fine and the bolt held open. Now, speaking of that testing, I want to talk about North Star Arms themselves and what they told me about their company. They're a company based in Arizona, and they like to do it their own way. And by that, they're going to forge their own destiny. Now, they told me a lot of what went into the box and on the box and the markings on the gun tell a lot about their company history. Now, as I said, I wish that they would have put this on their website or have some type of like little pamphlet that talks about that in the box. So I would have been able to talk about it in the original range report. But I brought the box that they sent with the gun, and this is the same type of box I had with that first rifle. Now, as you can see here, it shows you the state of Arizona where they're from. And up here you have a little star. Now, the North Star is known as Polaris, and they say it is the guiding star of aviation and shipping. Of course, you know, for navigation, Polaris is a really important star, and that is supposed to represent their guiding principles. Now, not only does the star look like a star, it also has a little reticle in it. And this is the same design that goes into the company ProFence's logo as well. I'll kind of show this here on the box. And that is the same logo that now they have on the side of the receivers. The first gun I had a different marking, but I really like the attractiveness of just having that star emblem on the side of the receiver. I think it looks a lot more professional, a little bit more minimalistic, and I think represents what the company is about a little more. Now, the other thing that they put on here are these little coyote tracks, and that's just indicative of Arizona. And they said they have those types of tracks all over the shop there at the factory. And it's just kind of a cultural thing there, and they wanted to include that on the box. So they're just trying to show you the heritage and where they come from. They also said that when people moved out to Arizona and the westward expansion of the United States, it really happened a lot later than most people think. That the real westward advance happened after automobiles were already in the east and people moved to the west without them to forge their own destinies. And that's what that company's whole philosophy is about. And they take pride in the manufacture of every rifle. They said that they have many veterans that work for the company that assemble their rifles. So I really do like that. Obviously, all these guns are made in the USA by US veterans. So I really have to hand it to them for that. All right, so now I want to talk about the handguard a little bit more. One of the complaints I had in that first video was the handguard might be a little bit too thin and narrow. And I still think that might be the case. Now, when I first shot that rifle, I didn't have a vertical foregrip. And as you guys know, I like vertical foregrips on my rifles. And since I added this, it really cut down on the heat transfer from the barrel, which, by the way, this barrel is an H-bar profile, which means a heavy barreled AR, and it is made by Ballistic Advantage, and it's 4150 chromoly steel. So it's a high grade machine gun metal barrel. So that once again goes into their whole thing about making the minigun, making machine guns. And so you get that high quality barrel, and it's supposed to be a sub-minute accuracy barrel. So that's just the Ballistic Advantage, and that's where they decided to invest a lot of their money when it came to this gun. As I said, you don't get backup iron sights in the box, but you get a great barrel. And so far, the barrel has been extremely accurate. It's definitely an H-bar profile, so it adds a little bit of weight in the front, but that's supposed to help with the accuracy as well with the mid-length gas system. Now, getting back to the handguard, I was talking about the vertical foregrip here. I don't have as much heat transfer when my hand is away. So personally, I still think the handguard is a tad thin, but of course, once you start adding your own accessories, even if it's an angled foregrip, vertical foregrip, or some type of rail cover, that's going to mitigate the heat transfer a lot. Now, after putting a lot of magazines through this at the range, I ended up not getting it as hot as I thought it would, and not as much as I remember. So I'm not sure if they changed anything about that, but I didn't have the same heat transfer on this gun. It didn't become uncomfortable the longer that I shot it, but most likely because I had the vertical grip. So if you get this gun, I would highly recommend putting some type of accessories, I said some type of grip, some type of rail cover on these rails just to help with that a little bit more. All right, so let's put a few more rounds down range and see if there's anything else about this gun I can learn and figure out. Alright, so my opinion on this rifle really hasn't changed too much the more that I shoot it. I really think it is very soft shooting. Very impressed with that. I shoot a lot of AR-15s, and they're all soft shooting. This one is softer than most. Now, when it comes to the ammunition, I know some of you guys are going to ask, I was using Winchester M855 green tip on this. So you know I'm not using junk ammunition. Now, there is one thing that I do remember, I'm not going to say disliking, but one of the things I would have to get used to, and it goes all the way back to what I was talking about when it came to the Hogue furniture. This grip here has a more steep angle than your typical AR-15, A2, A1 grip, and it's also a little bit more narrow. And so what that means for me with a little bit bigger hands is that the length of pull, I guess I'll call it, or whatever they call the front of the face of the trigger, all the way to the back of the grip is extremely short. And so I have to kind of ride my hand back on the grip a little bit more to make sure only the pad of the finger is on the trigger. Otherwise, I kind of want to wrap it around. It's just a very short length of pull, and that can be something I would have to get used to. But I would not change this grip out because, as I mentioned, the reason they went with Hogue is Hogue makes the interface system for the minigun. So it just adds that cool factor to the firearm. But it's something that I would pay attention to if you're looking at buying one of these guns. Alright, so now I'm going to put the rifle out at a little bit further range. Of course, I'm at an indoor range. The furthest I can put the target out is 25 yards, which is not really adequate for shooting a rifle like this. I really need to take some time and go out to Quail Creek, where I can go out to 100 yards, especially to help sight in this loophole scope a little bit more. And in case you're wondering, it's the new VX Freedom by Loophole. It's a 1.5 to 4 low power variable optics. So it's kind of something new they have on the market for AR-15s. I was really interested in it and picked one up for a pretty darn good price, and it is a made in the USA optic. But I really should go to an outdoor range where I can go further distance with this thing to really tune it in and get it sighted in right. But I'm going to put the target out at a little bit further and see how I do. All right, so the gun shot great. The grouping was wonderful, and I forgot to film the target. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I was kind of in a rush that night because I was there shooting 4 different firearms for upcoming range reports, but I definitely got to get this thing to an outdoor range, of course, to zero this new scope. Now, one of the things about the company that they emphasized to me on the phone when I was talking with them is that they know their role as a responsible firearms manufacturer. They know that many gun owners today are brand new gun owners here in 2021, because you guys know the explosion of firearms ownership here in the US has really picked up in the past few years. And one of the things that they do promote is the NSSF Child Safe program. So while many gun owners like myself, when I see this stuff in the box, I kind of ignore it. I got guns everywhere. I got lots of guns. I know how to handle them safely, how to store them safely. But for those people that are just getting into guns, including this type of material is probably pretty good, especially if they go home and actually read the owner's manual and read all of the supplied material. So they want to be known as a safe and responsible firearms manufacturing company. I really give them credit for that, because they're trying to bring America's rifle, and a really nice rifle, to a lot of people who might be first-time gun owners. Now, another thing that they include in the box, and let me tell you, they think about everything. They included an Otis loaded chamber indicator. So this is like your standard flag. Now, I was completely unaware of these little devices, but this chamber indicator is actually kind of like a fiber optic light where you can put in the end of the barrel, it plugs it, and you can actually use it as a bore light. It's actually kind of good. And the reason that they included this is they want people to know to never point the barrel at anything you are not willing to kill or destroy. And that means even if you're cleaning your guns, you don't want to look down the barrel. Now, I completely agree with that. And so you can look down the barrel from the opposite direction and through the action, and so you can see inside of there. If you don't have a bore light, you can use this one made by Otis, which acts both as a loaded chamber indicator, as I mentioned, and a fiber optic light to look through the bore, so you never have to point the barrel at anything you don't want to kill or destroy. That is really well thought out, and I was completely unaware of this little device. I might not use it as a loaded chamber indicator, but I will definitely use it as a bore light. All right, so with that said, I'm going to put one more magazine through this gun, and I'm going to give you guys my final thoughts. Okay, so for my final thoughts. Well, you know, I think I've said just about everything I possibly can about this rifle. Things I like, things I don't like. So here in the end, I'm just going to kind of summarize. I think this is a fantastic rifle. I said that in the original video. I questioned a couple of their choices, but as I mentioned, when they explained what they did and how much thought went into this rifle, and including what goes into the box, I was quite impressed. They just got to do a better job of explaining that. Have something on their website, have something in the box telling us how cool this rifle is and how cool their company is. If they did that, I think they'd get a lot more traction. Now, I will say on the phone, they told me that's one of the plans that they already have in the works. So I look forward to seeing how they're able to market that more. Now, I have to say, now that I've accessorized it as well, and kind of built it up with the philosophy that they have, meaning it's a base gun that you can add anything you want to, but what's internal, the barrel, the bolt, all of that, it's ready to go. It is a quality patrol rifle. I like it even more. I like the fact I have a really nice optic on this. The rail allows you to mount anything, of course, with M-LOK. I think this thing is turning out really, really nice. I love the mid-length gas system. Never owned one before, but I can definitely see the advantage of it. And once again, having this Hogue furniture just makes it even cooler knowing why they put it on there. I gotta give them so much credit for the thought that went into this rifle and their design. So I'm going to give them a really high score on that. But when it comes to my little star system, I'm always honest. I have to tell you guys about my personal experiences. The only hiccup I had at the range, I had that one malfunction where the bolt did not hold open on the first magazine. Besides that, it ran great. Looking at the fit, finish, and quality of this gun, everything seems to be a step up from the first rifle I had. It has no blemishes. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this. It has a pretty darn tight lockup between the upper and the lower receiver. The handguard is installed accurately. It's installed, looks like it's pretty darn straight. I know that they probably have some type of jig that does it, but I've actually gotten other rifles where that wasn't the case. The rifle seems to be really well built, well put together, and built by veterans. But I had that one malfunction, and there are, said, a couple of things when it comes to the performance. I had to kind of dock a couple points. So as I said, I kind of wish that the mounting of the bipod could be a little bit back. That's just because of the mid-length gas system. And if this handguard was just a little bit wider, maybe a little bit taller, I would be able to get those bolts on. But it's a narrow handguard, and that's cool. I just got to mount it where I do. And of course, the length of pull on the Hogue grip. Those are two super duper minor complaints. Not anything that I would say is a deal breaker at all. It is just a personal preference about where I want to mount stuff and the size of my hands. This grip is probably going to be perfect for most people. So on my star rating, what would I give this? Well, now that I know all I do about this gun and the fact that North Star Arms contacted me after my first range report because they cared so much about their product, I'm going to give this thing 4.75 stars out of 5. The only reason it's not perfect is just those two minor gripes, but I gotta be honest, I guess, and the one malfunction. But that's it. It is almost a perfect review. Almost a perfect review. So, the North Star Arms NS-15, made by a company that obviously cares about their product a lot. And I mean a lot. I'm not a big channel at all. They saw my review, contacted me, and wanted to make it right. They sent this gun to me, spent hours on the phone communicating with me about their product, telling me everything about it, everything that goes into the box, why they put it in there, all the paperwork, a mil-spec magazine, and even the loaded chamber indicator. Everything is well thought out, including the box. You gotta hand it to them. What a company. I think if they continue to make rifles of this quality, put this much thought into it, well, they're definitely gonna be successful. I know that the market is flooded right now with AR-15s, and they're trying to go for a very high quality patrol rifle that could be good for law enforcement and civilians. I definitely think they're onto something with this, and I'm looking forward to seeing any new future products that they may have. So there it is. My range report, Chapter 2, of the North Star Arms NS-15 rifle. 4.75 stars out of 5. It can't get any closer to a perfect review. And I'll let you guys know the terms of this review so you guys can decide, am I a shill and did it influence my results? Well, that's up to you. But I'm always honest, and that's what this channel is always going to be about. So there you go. So let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns in the comments section below. And if you made it this far in the video, it means the world to me. So as always, thanks for watching.